again, everyone. This video is going to go over a couple things that you need to know to write your introduction and thesis statement for the personal narrative essay. So later today, I would like you to write the draft of your introduction and the first body paragraph of this personal narrative essay. And to do that, you want to take into account some of the things that I'm going to go over in this presentation right now. As always, if you have questions, you can shoot me an email, and I'd be happy to talk you through any of the questions that you still have. So let's talk about thesis statements and introductions for this narrative essay. Now, here are some basics just about thesis statements in general, and some of this might be familiar to you, some of it might be new, either way is fine. But remember what a thesis statement does. You probably have heard this in a previous English class. The thesis statement is the thing that states the main claim or point of an essay. So kind of your overall main point, you put it in your thesis statement. Your thesis statement generally comes at the end of your introduction paragraph. When you're writing an essay of 3, 4, 5, 6 pages, your readers expect to see that thesis statement at the very end of your introduction paragraph. So that's where you want to put it in every essay that you write for this class. Now, your thesis statement needs to be 1 or 2 sentences in length. It's a very short. It needs to be a quick 1 or 2 sentences that readers can look at and understand what is your main point right away. Your thesis statement should be as specific as possible. Even though it's short, you don't want it to be too vague, too general. It needs to be as specific as you can make it in those 1 or 2 sentences. Something that you also want to think about is avoiding what I like to call blah phrases. Yes, I know, a very technical term. These are phrases like "in this paper" or "my main argument will be that." You don't need to say those kinds of things. They just make it harder for you to actually get your specific point across. So take out phrases, little words like that that you don't need in your thesis statement. Now, your thesis statements for this particular essay, which is all about a significant person in your life. Think about your main point. What are you trying to share with your readers? That needs to be captured in your thesis statement. So your main point in this paper is trying to explain who the most significant person in your life has been and what kind of impact they've had on you. So your thesis should identify that person, the person you're writing about, and offer a short but specific summary of how they have influenced you. So here's some examples that go from not so great to better. Here's the one that's not good. One person in particular has had the greatest influence on my life. The problem with this thesis statement is it's too vague. Who is that one person? So if you make it specific, you'll have a slightly better thesis statement. My brother has had the greatest influence on me. Okay, now I know the person that you're talking about, but you want to explain how your brother has had the greatest influence on you. So here's the best example of a thesis statement. By showing me how to be kind and optimistic when faced with adversity, my brother has shaped me into someone who can overcome any challenge. So this thesis statement, I know the writer is talking about his or her brother. I know the effect the brother has had on the writer, showing them how to be kind and optimistic. And I know also what kind of person the writer thinks they have become, someone who can overcome any challenge. So you can use this great version of a thesis statement as a model. You can use that to kind of base your own thesis statement on. Now let's talk a little bit about the introduction, and we'll talk about just kind of introductions in general. An introduction in any essay needs to do 3 things. 1, grab the reader's attention. Right from the first sentence, you want someone to be interested in what you're writing about. We'll talk about how to do that in the narrative essay in just a second. 2, the introduction should give some context or background of the topic that you're writing about. So in this case, in this essay, you probably want to give some background about the person and how you know them and what your relationship, kind of just the basic background about that relationship that you've had with that person. And then the introduction needs to lead into your thesis statement. Remember that thesis statement comes at the very end. Now, how to begin the introduction in this particular essay, the narrative essay? You have a couple different options. Here's some I would recommend. So in the first sentences of this narrative essay, you can begin in the middle of dialogue. Remember we talked about dialogue as an important narrating strategy that you want to include bits and pieces of throughout your essay. You can start right in the middle of a conversation. That will make your readers say, whoa, what's going on here? It will make them want to read more to figure out what this conversation is about. So you can start right in the middle of dialogue. Then as you go into your introduction, kind of take a step back and explain the context of that conversation. From there, talk about the person and then move into your thesis statement. Another option, start by describing the person's appearance in detail. Try to describe them so that the reader can actually see this person in their mind. That's a good way to get someone interested in the subject of your paper. Another option, jump right into a short anecdote about the person. Remember, we talked about anecdotes. There are short stories about one particular event or incident that happened, in this case, with the person you're writing about. So if you have a short one, you can jump right in and just tell the anecdote, then take a step back and explain who this person is to you, what your relationship has been like, and then segue into your thesis statement from there. Another option, you can ask the reader questions relevant to the paper topic. So maybe ask questions to get your readers thinking about a significant person in their life. That could be a good way to engage your reader right from the start. And yet another option, so many options. You can share a personal experience that you've recently had that reminds you of the person you're writing about. So maybe something just recently happened to you within the last couple weeks or the last year or so, and it illustrates the kind of person you've become because of the influence that the significant person has had on you. So you can use a personal experience that you've had just kind of on your own to illustrate the effects of this significant person on you and how you are now. So you want to think about these things when you write the introduction and thesis statement of your draft later today. Maybe you've already started working on it, maybe you haven't, but you still have lots of time. I want you to go ahead and draft your introduction. Think about the different ways you can start, like we just discussed. Then I want you to come up with your thesis statement at the end. Keep in mind those qualities of a good thesis statement that we talked about. And then I'd also like you to draft at least one body paragraph of your narrative essay. And what you can do is focus on one anecdote, one short story on a particular day, particular event, maybe something that you experienced or a vivid memory that you have of this person, and just spend that entire paragraph describing that anecdote, describing that experience or that event that this person was a part of in a lot of vivid detail. Use narrating strategies. So think about all the things that we've been talking about today and last time as you work on developing your introduction and body paragraph. And of course, you'll eventually add the rest of the body paragraphs in the conclusion later on. And when you have your complete draft, I take a look at it and give you feedback before I grade it. 2 other people in class will look at it and give you feedback. So don't think, oh, it has to be perfect right from the start. No, it's a process. So your first drafts can be really terrible, and that's okay. But I want you to see what you can come up with an introduction, at least one body paragraph. If you have questions in the meantime, always email me. I'm looking forward to see what you guys come up with. All right, more later. Bye-bye.